Hey guys, Buffer Game back today, bringing you another video for our weapon conversion series. And today we're going to be covering the EBR-14 and converting it into the Springfield Armory SOCOM II. So this is a variation of the M1A, which we've covered here on the channel before in a weapon conversion video, which I'll link down below. But let's go ahead and we'll build the weapon, jump a game, see how it handles, and check out the recoil control. So here's the final design for our SOCOM II by Springfield Armory. So let's go ahead and back out. The final design here, I'm going to strip this down to base, and you'll see first off, if I go out to my blueprints here, I am going to use one specific blueprint for this, but you can really use any variation of the weapon. You don't need this blueprint. I'm just going with this to bring it more in line with how the real one looks color-wise. So we're going to be using the ZLR Special here. This is part of a bundle that I picked up for 1,000 COD points. I'll show it on screen there quickly. Nothing really special about this bundle, except you do get this neat-looking black painted M1A or the EBR-14 with a lot of the attachments we really want to build this weapon. So essentially this weapon right off the bat when you buy it from the bundle is exactly what you want for this particular conversion. And again, we get that nice clean black finish. So let's go ahead and back out here. We'll use the ZLR Special at base, but I'll show you how this looks on just other blueprints as well as the base version of the EBR-14. So to start, we have the ZLR Special stripped down to base. We're going to go with first key attachment here is going to be the barrel. So it's hard to tell at base. I think the barrel is probably the right length for this. It's going to be, looks to be just maybe slightly longer than a 16, probably an 18 inch. So here you can see we go down and we're going to select the Forged Tack Elite. So this is going to give us a shorter barrel, probably around 16 inches if we compare it to the 20-inch barrel here. You can see it's probably about that 4-inch difference-ish. It doesn't really state the barrel length on this one, unfortunately, but we can assume it's going to be a 16 or a 16 and a half, which would be the SOCOM II. So for this one, the pros are going to be the ADS speed. The cons are going to be the bullet velocity for this weapon. So we'll go ahead and you can see just the different ones I have for this blueprint. You can see this is just going to give us a darker format. So we'll select that. Laser, we're going to go ahead and skip on this particular build. Optic, for this one, I'm going to go ahead and run the Combat HOLO scope here. This is going to be the EOTech in real life. So the Corp Combat HOLO sight just going to give us the precision sight picture. The cons, again, ADS, but not too much. I think it's about a frame to a frame and a half, so it's not anything that you'll notice. So we'll go ahead and select that. And then just to note, you can also go with the 4x flip here that came with this blueprint. You can see the different versions here, just the base, and then the ZLR Special, just a nice black version of the optic there. But for this one, we're going to go with the EOTech optic here. This is mainly going to be used for CQB, so we'll use it with that. Stock, another key attachment here. You can really go with a few different chassis here, but we're going to want the FTAC lightweight stock. This is going to give us the aim walking movement speed. The con is going to be the aiming stability on this particular one. You can see just how it differs from the base and some of the other blueprints that I have unlocked. So those may differ for you based on what blueprints you have. So we'll go ahead and select that. Next attachment, we're going to skip out on the perks here. Unfortunately, I wish we had maybe a burst perk would be nice, but we don't. So we'll go with the ammo. We're going to go, you can stay with the base 10. But I'm going to put a 20-round magazine on this, and I'll show you some different options you can swap out for some of these. But again, this is going to increase our ammo from a 10-round magazine to a 20-round magazine of the 7.62 by 51 NATO rounds. So pretty heavy hitting round there. That'll increase by 10, so it is going to result in the cons being the ADS speed and the movement speed since we're carrying more rounds in the magazine on the weapon there. So we'll go ahead and select that. And then the underbarrel, this is really more so personal preference. You can really run whatever you want. The Merc is a really good one too. Or the Commando, obviously, if you don't want to hurt your ADS speed. But for me, I think either the Operator or I'm going to be using the Ranger foregrip here. Seems to be the best with the aiming stability and just keeping shots on target if you're doing fast rates of fire with this weapon. So the pros are going to be the recoil control and the aiming stability. The cons are going to be the aim walk and movement speed and the ADS speed. So you can see, again, how it differs based on the different blueprints. We'll go ahead and select the ZLR one for this build. So that's the final design for the Springfield Armory SOCOM II. Again, this is a variation of the M1A using that 16.65-inch barrel, or 16.25-inch barrel in real life, versus the SOCOM 16, which had a 16-inch barrel. So you can see there, comes with the Picatinis, same as really the base one. The only difference versus the SOCOM 16 and the SOCOM II is the full-length Picatinis on top there for mounting optics. And then obviously we have quad rail Picatinis here, essentially on the left, right, top, and bottom. We can mount our laser if we wanted to on this, and we have obviously optics, or excuse me, rail mounts on the bottom there for our foregrip and other attachments that you could do. So that's that weapon using the ZLR Special. Now just, if we look at the base variation of this, using the same attachment, so this is just the regular EBR-14, no blueprint used here, you can see very similar, nothing different with this except you just have a less clean finish of the weapon. It's just a little bit older and beat up looking, but otherwise it's going to be the same exact weapon build here. And you can see the Picatinny's, there's no cosmetic changes. It's really just a color change with that ZLR special, which is why I used it. It gives it a nice black finish. And you can see here just the SOCOM II, how it compares, that nice clean look, how it compares to the real life version. Again, if you want to put 10 round magazines or even a 15, that's fine. I would swap out. If we go ahead and back out here, some options you can do here. You can deselect the 20 round magazine and go ahead and use maybe something like a tack laser if you really wanted to help with that ADS speed because you're carrying heavy rounds. But I would really recommend probably the muzzle brake on this. The SOCOM II and the SOCOM 16 both came with standard issue muzzle brakes to help control that recoil because it's a short barrel rifle. It kicks a little bit more, and they needed something on there to help control that recoil. So here the muzzle brake will give you the recoil stabilization. Again, you do have some cons there, but it will help you keep those shots on target probably a little bit easier than you'll see me doing in the gameplay here. And then another option here, if we just use one of our other blueprints, there's a few blueprints that I covered with the M1A build that already have the design at base of the right stock that you really would want for this. So they already have the design of the FTAC lightweight stock off the bat, so you don't need to waste an attachment on that. So something like the Stay Frosty, and there's a few other ones out there that have this design right off the bat. So you can utilize this and not waste an attachment on the stock option, and you can use something like the muzzle and or a laser if you wanted to deselect the 10 rounds, or excuse me, deselect the 20 rounds and just go with the standard 10 and put a laser on there as well. You have a muzzle brake to help control that recoil. You'll move a little bit faster. That's also a really good option with that as well. You can see if we deselected that, put on a laser, and then that's our basically the same exact design. You just have to be more conservative with your ammo there. Careful with your ammo because you only have 10 rounds in the magazine versus the 20. But again, that's a really effective build as well for this particular weapon. So we'll go ahead and go back. This is a ZLR special build that we did here. You can see just how the camouflages look. Again, on this particular blueprint, that might differ from the base, but very similar. It's just going to look a little cleaner on this one. You can see how these look on this blueprint here, as well as some of the others. I am going to go the reticle. If you're using HOLO, I'm going to go with the Witch. This is the furthest I have unlocked. Obviously, you would want something like a blue dot maybe, but we'll go with that. And you can see how it looks on some of the other ones here. Like this particular blueprint, I think looks pretty clean with the camos as well. Very nice looking there. So really personal preference. I'm going to stay with the standard black. You'll see me running here in the gameplay with the SOCOM II. So that's our final design here, the Springfield Armory SOCOM II rifle. And we'll go ahead and jump into the gameplay here. You'll see me just using this against bots on Crash. I did use this a little bit in online matches too, on shipment and things like that. It's definitely very effective. However, with everyone running around with like fire shotguns and things, it's a little hard to get the right gameplay that I would want. I think it would excel on a little bit more medium-sized maps for sure. And the thing with this weapon is you can two-fire tap-fire this and get 2 shots on target very quickly and kill your enemy instantly with that. So if you can master how to fire this and control that recoil, I think it's going to work out really well. And again, like I said, if you put that muzzle brake on there, it's going to help you with that recoil stabilization that much more, which is probably a better option than what you see me using here. The recoil, again, kicks pretty heavy because it is that 7.62 by 51 millimeter NATO rounds, but if you can hit your shots and get them on target, I think you're going to put your enemy down really quick. You just got to be careful because it will kick hard, so you don't want to fire too fast. Like I said, you can get away with 2-round bursts really quickly, but when you start tap firing in desperation is when the recoil is really going to get away from you and that muzzle climb is going to kick in. So this weapon, again, the SOCOM 16 and the SOCOM II were designed and introduced in 2004 through present. The SOCOM II, I believe, was actually discontinued in 2014. It was replaced by the SOCOM CQC or CQB builds and some other additions to that family. But again, introduced in 2004, manufactured by Springfield Armory, and it was produced 2004 through present. There's different variations. We don't have quite the SOCOM II anymore, but the SOCOM 16, SOCOM CQB, and some other ones are available at SpringfieldArmory.com for you to look at if you want to check that out. The mass overall for the base SOCOM 16 is going to be 8.8 pounds. With the SOCOM 2, I believe it bumped it up to about 10 pounds because it did have extra Picatinny rails here, which you see on this particular weapon here. So about 10 pounds overall, and I believe that's unloaded. That's an empty magazine. So if you put on a 10, 5, 10, 15, or a 20-round M1A magazine, it's going to add extra weight, obviously, with that 7.62 by 51 NATO rounds. The length overall is going to be 37.25 inches, and the barrel length is going to be 16 to 16.25 inches, or 413 millimeters. The cartridge is going to be that 7.62 by 51 millimeter NATO, or even the 308 Winchester round can be used on these rifles as well. The action for this is going to be a gas-operated rotating bolt self-loading design, and the rate of fire, again, semi-automatic, so I'm not really sure how fast you can fire this in-game. Really, as fast as your trigger goes, there's a little bit of a cap on it, but you can still, you'll see me in the gameplay, fire this thing pretty fast and effectively. And again, if you have a muzzle brake on there, and you build this thing for max recoil control, it's definitely very, very deadly, because typically you're going to kill somebody in 2 shots. Now the feed system, any M1A detachable box magazine, so like I said, those come in typically 5, 10, or 20 rounds. I don't know if they make a 15-round magazine in real life like you see here in the game, but any M1A magazine, so 5, 10, or 15, 5, 10, or 20 rounds of the 7.62 by 51 millimeter NATO rounds. And then sights, it does have just X sights, very similar to, I believe, the old versions of the Springfield Armory M1As that were introduced way back in the 70s. So it basically keeps that same iron sight design. However, with these ones, you have those full-length Picatinny rails, and you can mount optics and things on there much easier than you could with the M1As. So that's the final design for this. And again, like I said, it did come with a standard issue muzzle brake to help control that recoil on the weapon in real life. Because you had the shorter barrel, they needed to compensate for that extra kick with the weapon. And they also had to redesign the gas system in real life for this. But again, it's used for mainly CQB operations, CQB to medium, closer to medium range operations. Here in game, you really want to use it, I would say far close to medium ranges, probably out to maybe 40, 50 meters you can get away with. I wouldn't recommend this one for Warzone because you're going to get outgunned by everything, but in multiplayer, I think it's definitely a very, very deadly design. Like I said, 2 shots and you're going to get shot on target and kill somebody. And if you can just master that 2-tap with this weapon, you're going to down people basically instantly. You can get shots off pretty quick succession if you're good with your trigger finger with this one. Not quite as fast as the FAL, but again, very quick in my opinion. You can down people very, very quick with those 2-shot bursts. So just be sure you're controlling the recoil on this weapon. But again, this is just a different variation of the Springfield Armory M1As. Now, again, we're building this on the EBR-14, so you can see the EBR-14, or the M14 as it's known mainly in real life here. Just a different variation of the Springfield Armory M1A. Is just a civilian version of the M14. And obviously that was produced in 1974 is when it was designed. That's still being produced 1974 through present. The difference mainly here is that the M1As have a standard 22-inch barrel length, 20 to 22-inch barrel length, which you see for attachments on this rifle. And then here with the SOCOM series of rifles, we have the 16.25-inch barrel length. So let me know down below what you guys think of this weapon. What do you think of the gameplay? Again, I think it's actually really effective. I used the actual M1A build in a match on Shipment a few months ago, and the thing was just the most dominant weapon I've ever had. I had the best game of my life, actually. I think I was like 74-10 or something. It was absurd just how quickly you 2-tap people. So with this weapon, again, it's more so geared for a close quarters map. You just got to really master that fire rate as well as getting shots on target. So something like maybe a 3.25 optic with a nice clean precision sight picture would be better for that. But again, here with the holographic, I do find it a little bit difficult to get shots on target. There's some instances where it seems like I'm just not getting hit markers, but again, your ADS movement speed and things like that is pretty slow because it's a heavier rifle. So you may want to swap out some attachments on this. And again, you really need to be precise with your shooting on this. Like I said, if you can get on target and hit that 2-tap, it's going to be game over. But if you let your shots get away from you, you're not going to hit anything with the whole 20-round magazine. So just got to be careful of that. Let me know down below what you guys think of this blueprint, what you think of the weapon conversion overall. What blueprints or base weapon do you prefer for your M14? Have you used it for anything in multiplayer or Warzone? I've definitely become a fan of this a little bit here in Warzone. I used it back a few months ago in multiplayer in Warzone, and I'm picking it back up and put it back in my rotation recently. So it does actually handle really well. Again, it's just a weapon you need to be precise with your shots with. But let me know down below what you guys think of the SOCOM 16 series of rifles here. This is Buffner Gaming with the SOCOM II from Springfield Armory. Till next time, Buffner Gaming out.